welcome to episode number 71 of the Comic Watchers Show. I am your host, Matt, coming at you from the safety of my quarantine zone. With me, as always, are my fellow watchers, Nick and Mike. Gentlemen, say hello from your bubbles.
Hello from the bubbles on Eastern Virginia.
Yeah, still holed up in the library, so hey, everybody.
Yeah. So, heck yeah. So after a couple really fun and really groundbreaking weeks for us with some awesome interviews, we're back to our normal kicks here this week. We've got some great books to review for you. We've got Outlawed #1 from Marvel and the Robin 80th anniversary special from DC, of course. But before that, we've got a ton of news to catch up on. Most of it does not involve the world burning down, but you never know. It might even touch on the world of comics. So, Mr. Scoop Johnson, what have you?
Scoop is back, and his alter ego will not be wrestling a bear due to COVID restrictions. The bear was returned to the Norfolk Zoo, so all we have is this little guy right here is going to be the unofficial mascot of the Comic Watcher Show for tonight. So,
Mike, you did promise to wrestle a bear on Twitter.
Maybe after COVID we can get the bear back. Who knows? We'll see.
The bear can't catch COVID-19.
That's not what I was told, sir.
So, the only danger right now is you breaking your word to our legions of followers on the Twitters.
It's not my fault. I'm just following the governor's quarantine restrictions.
Bro, you're not even not wearing a shirt. Come on, you weren't like you were just not ready.
Anyway, on to the news.
Next week, Grizzly Adams.
Enough of the shenanigans. All right, so we're going to start with some Marvel here. America Chavez is returning with a mini-series this June. It's going to focus on her past, her origins, her powers, which will have consequences like in the future and now. Pretty good team going to head this project up. Kalinda Vasquez is writing, Carlos Gomez on art, and the cover by Sarah Pacelli. So once again, that is coming out in June. That looks really cool. Her story's pretty rad. Talk about Empire. We got some solicits on the site that I want to hit on. Excuse me. Gonna come at you in June. We have the solicits on the site for Empire issues 4 and 5. We also have some of the side issues for Squadron Supreme, Captain America, Thor, just to name a few. But head on over to comicwatch.com. Check out the rest of those solicits for what is going to be a pretty rad, issues, going forth. Boom. And I'm setting myself up for this one. The first look for Brian Azzarello's Faithless 2 is going to happen. It's on the site as well. We talked about it, and he got berated for buying Faithless, but that's okay. No, it's really good. You should check a look at it. It's on the website. It's now. Boom is continuing their Buffy the Vampire Slayer universe stories. Willow is getting a mini-series this June. That should be pretty awesome. The rebooted universe is set to continue in the wake of the event of Hellmouth. There's some retcon stuff going on there, but significant change finds Willow leaving Sunnydale and heading out to the world. That comes out in June. The series will be written by Mariko Tamaki with art by Natacha Bustos. And if I mispronounce that, I do apologize, but definitely check that out as well.
Fun fact, Mariko Tamaki is going to be taking over Wonder Woman in June over at DC.
Yes.
So her star is, it was already shining pretty bright, but it's going full supernova now.
Yeah, that should be pretty good. Image, we have, it was a pretty cool graphic novel, Blue in Green, which is the dark and haunting portrayal of a young musician's pursuit of creative genius, monstrous nature of which threatens to consume him, as did his predecessor a half a century ago. That's going to come out on October 28th. Ram the 5th and a Nod RK is your creative team for that. the release looks like it has a very Miles Davis feel to it, and a very tip of the cap, I would say, to the Miles Davis story and stuff. So that looks really good. That's on the site as well. And then to add on, and not to really get into COVID stuff, but Image did a really cool thing. There's a lot of companies doing a lot of great stuff right now to kind of help with everyone being self-quarantine and quarantine, and God forbid if folks are sick. But anyway, they've made their products returnable in order to help the LCSs in case just a lot of them can't move their product, can't sell it. And to kind of pause on the news, I can't stress enough that if you can go to your LCS, if your LCS has a drive up and order online, you can pay through PayPal, Venmo, whatever you got. Make sure you're supporting your LCSs and really any local business during this time. And check that out. But anyway, Image doing really good things. Moving on to some
Mike. Yeah, real quick. I'm sorry. I want to jump on there with something real quick.
Yeah.
I also saw that this year's Free Comic Book Day is being extended throughout the entire month of May, and I didn't get the details on how that's supposed to work or not.
Okay.
But that is, of course, in response to the COVID-19 outbreak, which is every day proving to affect more and more aspects of our normal lives. So,
absolutely.
Like to really emphasize what Mike said, do what you can to support not just your LCS in a safe way, but any other local businesses, because they're going to be struggling for a while. The Walmarts of the world and the Amazons of the world, they can absorb this blow that is hitting them right now, but mom and pop down the street cannot.
Yeah,
so just do what you can in a safe and socially, healthfully responsible way, and let's just all be there for each other.
Yeah, absolutely.
While practicing social distancing.
Yeah.
Please.
Actually, Image just posted. They released this webcomic. It's just one page, real short, of some quick things you can do to support your local comic shop, and it's mainly emphasizing the importance of a pull list. So it kind of walks you through how to do these things in a safe way in this time. Definitely something worth checking out.
Yeah,
that's
absolutely.
a great idea. Absolutely.
And moving on to humanitarian efforts, I guess you could say, if you want to call them that. 2000 AD is offering Case Files #5 free for download on the app. It's easier if I can kind of put this out there on the website. They do have a link that is kind of, from what just looking on Facebook and looking on the Dread sites and stuff, that the pages that I belong to, a lot of people have a problem with that link that they posted to download Case Files #5. But if you go to your Google Play, iTunes, whatever you have, and download the 2000 AD app, it's going to be way easier to download Case Files #5 for free. It has Progs 208 through 270, tons of good Dread content for you Judge Dread fans out there. So check that out. We're going to kind of move quickly here with the news. Aftershock Comics has a pretty rad-looking upcoming graphic novel called Kill a Man. It's a sports story with a different slant following complicated relationship between two MMA fighters of different generations with shared history. That's going to be headed by Steve Orlando and Philip Kennedy Johnson, with art by Al Morgan. That's on the site as well, and that looks really, really cool. That's coming out June 3rd, so you may want to mark your calendars for that. Top Cow, another cool thing that they're doing is they're sharing their proceeds from their Humble Bundle, which we had mentioned on news on the show, I think 2 or 3 weeks ago, which is basically you go into the website, pledge what you can, and they have different levels of bundles of comics that you get for whatever you can give. Which is it's really great. It's going till April 8th, 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, and they're going to share their proceeds with the Hero Initiative, the Jane Goodall Institute, and One Life to Love. So head on over to Top Cow. See, I mean, if that's something that you're into, I'm definitely going to head over there because I'm a Top Cow fan. And so whatever you can give, the Humble Bundle is pretty cool because you don't have to. If you want to spend $5 or $10, you can get a bundle of sweet Top Cow comics for $5 or $10. So it's not something that you have to, break the bank for. It's really
Awesome.
cool. Yeah.
Awesome.
So yeah. So wrapping up news. That's the big news.
Hey, shameless self-plug real quick. We at Comic Watch have a brand new podcast. It is something that Nick can give some info on real quick.
Yes, I was kind of hoping to talk about it a little bit. I'm excited to kick up some more of these shows because we haven't talked a lot about gaming at Comic Watch, and it's a huge aspect of the fandom. And, comics are making their way more and more into gaming. Spidey was huge. We got a Valiant Shadow Man remaster coming. Yep. So we've got a show called Multiplayer Mode, and it's with one of our own watchers, Sarah, and her brother, and they're talking about Animal Crossing for the first episode. Huge game that everybody's super excited for.
Very cool.
It's up on Facebook, YouTube, all over for podcasts, wherever you listen to your podcasts. Find us at the Comic Watch channel, and you'll see Multiplayer Mode episode 1 for Animal Crossing Horizons. So check it out.
Very cool. Yeah, that's
self-promotion,
awesome.
But totally worth it.
Yeah.
All right. Well, gentlemen, let's, for the first time in 3 weeks, dig into some reviews. Eeny, meeny, miny, mo. Let's talk about Outlawed #1 from Marvel first. It was written by E. Viewing, in art by Kim Jacinto, colors by Essen Grundetjern, which is probably the most awesome name ever. So, Outlawed #1 tells the tale of some young, brash, not necessarily upstart, but good-intentioned and maybe a little wet behind the ears superheroes out there doing their thing. In this case, the champions. Kamala Khan, Viv Vision, the young Nova, Sam something or other, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Miles Morales, of course, is there. So they are out to protect a speaker at their school, an internationally famous youth who is a not too thickly veiled version of Greta Thunberg. And there is an attack, and there's a big dragon, and there is a giant disaster, and lots of people get hurt and killed, and lots of property destruction, and the U.S. government decides that all heroes under the age of 21 are outlawed. They mean well, but too young, kids. Sorry, go home. So this issue, like I said, written by E. Viewing and art by Kim Jacinto. Guys, what did we think about this thing? Mike, how about you go first?
I'm going to say I enjoyed it-ish. And I'm going to stop there and kind of go on. I am normally a pretty decent fan of Jacinto's work. But I found myself reading this after a couple times, kind of just not really paying attention to the art. And I don't say that in a bad way, because obviously I can't even draw stick figures. So I'm not going to, neg someone too bad for their creations. But it felt off with his stuff. The art didn't kind of speak out to the story. I thought the story was good. And we've been here before, in our chats and our pre-games and stuff. We talked about it. It's very Civil War-ish, just for a new generation, for the kids that missed out on the awesomeness that was Civil War. Here's part 2. But
I hate to make you feel old, but Civil War was 14 years ago.
God bless America.
For those of us keeping score.
Thanks for tuning in to Comic Watch. I'm going to go take my Geritol really quick, and see you next week. No, but overall, this book was good. It had me. I'm a sucker for story that has anytime, young folks want to kind of stand up and get their voices heard, get their names on paper and stuff like that. I thought the intentions was good. The cast was right on. Anytime you have the champions, I'm a huge Kamala Khan fan, have been since her inception. I thought that it was such a kick in the teeth that, how dare he, name the law after Kamal. I was like, God, how could you pardon my French, kids, plug your ears, but I was like, you bastard, right? Like, how dare you name this after? Like, come on, really? And shout out to, but I was just like, but anyway, but yeah, I thought it was good overall, but it just felt off at times. And I think maybe the story wasn't in tune with the art, and then the art wasn't in tune with the story. But am I going to continue reading? Like, because I think was it Champions? It continues into Champions for the next go round. I'm in. I'm definitely in. I'm going to follow this because I think, especially nowadays, and I'm not going to go into politics, but I think that the narrative and the story that you see here can easily be interweaved to pretty much anything we're seeing right now. And all you have to do is just kind of change some names and change some players. And this book is kind of like real life and what we're going through now. But other than that, like I said, the big hookups for me was I just think, Jacinto was just off, because his stuff is normally on point. It's not for everybody, but it's not, I don't know. Like I said, overall, I'm in. I thought this book was decent. The story's there. I just didn't think the art and the story made for a good book. I just think they were just mismatched. I don't know if they know each other. I don't know if they sat in a room together, or someone in Marvel's headquarters just like, hey, we're just going to take this artist and this writer, do a book, and here you go. And at times that's what it read. It really felt that Marvel just kind of didn't take the time to pair the right writer with the right artist. And I think this book could have been better. But as it stands right now, it's a good book. I'd recommend it. I don't think it's a usually bad book, but I would recommend it. But there's stuff that I would maybe fix or tweak and stuff like that. But other than that.
All right, Nick, how about you? What are your thoughts and feelings on Outlawed?
Yeah, I was a little bit more stoked on it. I mean, I'm excited for this team. I think Marvel's done pretty well with the legacy characters as of late. They, from Ironheart to Kamala, I think a lot of these characters have taken a more prominent role with Marvel, and to see them kind of headline this event that, might feel a little Civil War-ish, but it's ultimately putting these characters at the spotlight and kind of drawing attention to this corner of the Marvel universe that they've really carved out in the past few years, and seeing them all come together like that was really awesome. I think Eve Ewing is a perfect writer to take on this story. And
Why?
the story, I'm sorry?
Why? I don't know much. Sorry, I didn't mean to jump in and put you on the spot. I don't know anything really about Eve Ewing's writing.
I followed a
resume,
lot of writing
I'm just curious why she would be perfect.
No, I think I followed a lot of her writing with Ironheart, and seeing how they're able to tackle not only the larger scheme in Marvel and how to bring this character into a connected Marvel universe, but hit that grounded human element. And I think that's something that is harder for someone like an audience like me, an aging white dude, is finding something in Ironheart. I think they're tapping into a more relatable, emotional, human context. And ultimately, I think that's what this story tried its best to emphasize with Viv. That moment where Viv is taken on the dragon, and that's ultimately the catapulting moment for the story that really sets this initiative into gear or into motion and helps pass Kamala's law. Viv has gone through some stuff on social media. Fans blew up when we released that exclusive shot from C2E2 of Viv on the cover, exploding. It went crazy because everybody was like, please don't you dare do this to Viv again. And I had no idea that there was that type of following. So when I read this book and kind of saw how Viv was treated in this traumatic experience, that part was pretty emotional. And I think that beat was done really well. that part was how they pulled away from Civil War too. But all of this is still packaged in artwork that's subpar. You know, that's kind of ultimately what you get is a strong script that is not executed to its best all the way through. There's a lot of different elements of these making a comic, and in an event like this with such publisher oversight from Marvel, I think it's kind of hard to navigate that in a successful way every single time. But hey, the letterer did great. If we're going to talk about artwork, the letters in that book, oh my gosh, they had everything from the Thum and seeing Viv used as the circle and the second O. Like, there's different ways that the letterer kind of integrated their work into this artwork that I felt was kind of lacking. And then I found myself like being excited about the letterers pulling out cool moments in these panels. I think there are just moments where the creative team just didn't execute to the best of their abilities, maybe. And I know that it's a timeline crunch and there's a lot happening here, but there are just some things that, yeah, like Mike said, could be tweaked a little. But I'm pretty hyped on the story. Seeing all these characters together, that's super awesome. And yeah, a straight gut punch seeing Kamala's Law right there at the end. Like, that's straight drama to come.
That was some good. That was a nice little Orwellian touch.
Yeah.
Right.
Like, I felt like throwing the book across the room. I was like, how dare you?
Yeah, for sure.
Jesus.
Yeah.
So let me be frank. I will be.
Here we go.
I try on this show very hard to restrain both extreme negativity if I don't like a book, or an extreme just over-enthusiastic slobber job if I love a book. I like to try to remain as detached and objective as I can. So please bear that in mind when I say I absolutely despised this comic.
Good night, everyone.
And I don't say that with a song in my heart. I wanted to like it. I like these characters. Okay? But let's be honest. This is just Marvel repackaging Civil War. They didn't even bother to try to twist it into anything different. It just is. To borrow a meme from the internet, I'm going to tell my kids this is Civil War 3. Okay? I just can't get around that. Oh, that was weird.
Nick left. Nick just left.
I just left the
get-go. Just the sheer knowledge that this book does not aspire to be anything more than a cheap knockoff of last decade's most successful event book just killed the reading experience for me. It truly, truly did. Even the moments I liked, like you guys said, naming the law after Kamala, that was a cruel little twist of the dagger to the heart. And hey, the new Power Man is here. I'm not reading Champions, but I think he is in that book, right?
Yeah.
Holy crap. I thought that Al Ewing and I were the only ones that cared about the new Power Man, but we're not. We love him so much. He's cool. And he has a good, strong character beat in this comic. And lots of the individual characters have strong character beats. I really enjoyed everyone getting their little moments in the spotlight, whether it's the new Wasp or Viv Vision, who's, of course, a huge catalyst for the story. Kamala, obviously. Just everyone had these good little character moments. And that right there is what really infuriated me more, because here's the thing. If you don't have to have the most original story in the world if you've got characters that are compelling, right?
Sure.
It's a trope at this point. It's a cliche to say there's no new stories under the sun, and I don't believe that, because everyone has their own voice, and using their own voice, they make these stories their own. Okay, and that in itself doesn't bother me, but just the general execution of the story is so shallowly Civil War redo, whatever. Part 3. I just couldn't get into it. I mean, right down to the well-intended teen heroes causing a major calamity. And then there's the art. And I'll grant you, like, Kim Jacinto is a very acquired taste. And in fairness and full transparency, that style is not one that I respond to very well. I didn't like it when Jeff Matsuda and Roger Cruz were doing it in the 90s, and I don't like Umberto Ramos doing it now, and I don't like this look. It's just, it looks sloppy to me. And stylized is one thing, but sloppy is another. There's a panel, a double-page spread, in fact, with Miles Morales swinging towards the reader, full Grundle shot, by the way, and Jacinto tried to do this foreshortening thing with Miles' legs and just didn't do it at all. Miles' legs look like 8-foot-long insect legs. If I was the editor, I would have rejected that page in a heartbeat and said, you need to do better. This is unacceptable. We're Marvel freaking comics. We should have better standards than this. This is, and I mean, it's not even fair to say it's quote unquote amateur hour because there's so many quote unquote amateur indie comics with better art than this one had. Period. There's all kinds of flourishes like that on the art throughout, whether it's Nova's mouth being disproportionately large under his helmet to the point that he looked like a Goomba with from Mario at certain points. Or just the fact that everyone kind of looked like a stretched out version of a Roger Cruz drawing. Or not, I'm sorry, not Roger Cruz, Umberto Ramos. It just, the art is not good. And I hate to say that because I'm not a professional artist. I don't know how much time and years and whatever Kim Jacinto has spent on, honing her craft. But this art simply did not work. And I don't know. Hey, Nick, to your point, the lettering was great. It really truly was. I kind of went back and looked after you said that because I hadn't thought about it, but
it's great.
It really was. And I know I'm damning the book with faint praise at this point, but it's good to be called out.
Like, and if I could play devil's advocate a bit, the comparisons to Civil War are primarily rooted in it being legislation that aims to outlaw superheroing, right? Or vigilante.
Like the whole setup for the issue with a team of young novice heroes causing a giant calamity that kills a bunch of people and causes mass destruction. I mean, it's the same thing.
Yeah.
Well,
but
I mean,
the
also
execution of Civil War primarily in the sides that were formed.
I'm sorry, what?
Like, isn't the execution or the overall narrative of Civil War like mainly derived from the sides that are formed and that you have
catalyst is the same.
Yeah. So I mean, where do we have those dynamics at play in the story?
Well, we don't yet, but we do have the same catalyst.
Yeah, that's what kicks it off. But I think it's telling a totally different story.
I think in order to fully respond to that, we do need to see what happens in issue 2 to see what the sides that are formed looks like. Yeah. Because from your perspective, and to the credit of what you're saying, we don't have enough information to work with to make a valid call on that one. So,
because like I think of Civil War and I see like Cap versus Iron Man. It's not necessarily like this legislation that is outlawing what they're doing. I know that's the catalyst, but
it's outlawing. Civil War was outlawing superheroes that weren't registered with the government. This is the same thing with a different coat of paint. It's outlawing superheroes that are under 21.
Yeah, that's
that
legislation is kind of like key.
Right. I mean, it's kind of like, are you eating your chicken nuggets at McDonald's, or are you going to take your chicken nuggets at home? I mean, either way, there's still chicken nuggets, it's like Matt said, the catalyst is there. Now, it doesn't mean that it's a bad story, which it's not, but I don't know, maybe we do need to, wait for issue 2 and kind of see where it goes, because overall,
in order to make that fair of a judgment, I think so. Yeah. But I mean, it's, and it's important to, and then, you know, I've said a lot of negative about this comic, and I really do want to point out that it is important that Marvel is taking the time to really nurture their teen heroes, because Marvel maybe didn't create the teen hero, but they damn well perfected it with Spider-Man. And in the decades since then, you know, about once per decade, they come out with the new Spider-Man or some iteration thereof in terms of teen heroes. And, you know, right now, I actually feel like they probably have a stronger stable of youthful heroes than they've ever had before. Just in terms of strength of character, because they're
absolutely.
Because they're really treading on DC's stomping ground right now, because so many of these characters are legacy characters, you know, and you've got Kate Bishop Hawkeye, even though she wasn't in this issue, except off panel, I guess. You know, the new Wasp, Miles Morales, obviously, Kamala Khan, so on and so forth. So Marvel is owning it, but I feel like they're doing it in such a derivative way that, unfortunately, 6 months from now, a year from now, we will have forgotten that Outlawed happened. And I hate that, because these characters deserve better.
Yeah. Sure. Absolutely.
I think that's on Marvel more than anything else.
Say that again. I'm sorry.
Like, I think that's on Marvel more than anything else.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Like, they've already got 2 other major crossovers teed up for, you know, this summer, and and, you know, who knows what they've got cooking for the latter half of the year and next year. I'm sure these things are on the drawing board. Ed Brisson, you have been summoned to write the next big event comic. It's going to happen.
That, and what series is going to get another #1? So, I mean, what series is going to get restarted? So, I mean,
follow up on Champions #1.
True story.
Marvel,
for shame. For shame.
Yeah.
All right. This got super negative. Let's focus our attention to Robin 80th anniversary special. Woo! Let me tell you, gentlemen, no 80-year-old has ever looked better in short pants than Robin. Okay?
Yeah.
That was a loaded statement.
Where is this going, by the way? I mean,
look at those legs.
It's true.
You must go to Planet
Fitness too, by the way. This episode took a bizarre turn. We're done for the week before the cops get called on me. No. So yeah, Robin 80th anniversary special, taken off where Action Comics 1000, Detective Comics 1000 started. DC has a whole slew of characters that are enjoying their 80th anniversary, the beginning of octogenarianhood, as it were, this year, starting with Robin. And next month, we're going to have Green Lantern, Joker, and Catwoman to join those in their one-shots as well. But first and foremost, the Boy Wonder himself. So this is a 100-page issue. It's got 10 stories in it, 10 different creative teams. I'm not in the business of making people fall asleep, so I'm not just going to do a rundown on all the creative teams, but let me just say, pretty stacked deck. You know, I read it. I enjoyed it. I noticed a common narrative theme in several of the stories, or maybe not narrative theme, I should say, but a storytelling trick. And I'll get to that in a minute. But guys, I just would like to hear your thought on some of these stories. Nick, how about you? You're up first.
Yeah, definitely. You know, with a lot of these books, it's like Tech 1000 and Action 1000. Some are great, some are not so great. They're not for everybody. I think it's a comprehensive look at the character and what a lot of different creative teams can bring to them. And I think that's ultimately what makes these issues so fun. It shows the timeless nature of these characters and all the different approaches that can be done and how the character still works. And I think that's ultimately what I enjoy most about these. In Robin, you see a huge variation. In Detective 1000, you didn't really get that. You know, people have kind of a straight view of the Dark Knight, and Robin has this huge range of potential storytelling. Everything from the first story where it's classic boy wonder and tight shorts to Dick and Agent of Spiral as Agent 37 that Tim Seeley and Tom King wrote together. I think that that difference is kind of what pulls me into Robin, and ultimately like the fandom behind it. I know Scoob had the Twitter question of what was everybody's favorite Robin, and no Damien, but I think that's ultimately like what this book creates. Because I was flipping through it trying to find Damien because I'm like, where's my Robin at? And I was excited to see it. It almost acted as a timeline of these Robins too, because you read your way through Dick and then Jason, and then you finally come up on Damien at the end, and it kind of kicks off with the Super Sons and Tomasi and his long history with the Super Sons. So it's always great to kind of catch up with what he's doing with them. But ultimately, yeah, it's just a fun book. It's a compilation of a ton of different Robin stories that you'll have fun with. And of course I went straight to the Damien ones because I'm preferential too. So I'm kind of flipping through there. I started there and then worked my way back. And these books you can read like that. I think that's part of the fun and part of the enjoyment of them. So you can't go wrong with adding this to your collection. You really can't. There's no way are you flipping through your short boxes and are you mad that you bought the 80th anniversary Robin issue. Just go pick it up and read it. You'll love it.
Okay, so, and I'm thinking I already probably know the answer, but what was your favorite story in here, Nick?
It probably was the Tomasi story, and
the Super Sons.
Yeah, the Super Sons one he did.
Okay,
And then there was also the Robbie Thompson that did Robin, Son of Batman, that kind of ended it. Those two, I think Robbie Thompson's may have been a little better. Like, if I'm going to just pick one to read, I think that one shed light on the dynamic between Damian and Batman and the father-son relationship really, really well, and ending with, or like starting with this confidence of Damian and, how powerful he is in this role of Robin, and then ending with like this almost like very boy role in feeling insecure of his role in needing Bruce as a father. Like, very into that. I think they did that really well.
Okay. Awesome. What was your least favorite story? Put you on the spot.
Yeah, that's a tough one because like I don't know. I guess it's kind of the first one. I went back to that one and read it, and I believe that was Marv Wolfman's.
Yeah, Marv Wolfman and Tom Grummett.
Yeah. Sorry, I know that's like history, and you got to eat your veggies, but you put me on the spot.
Okay. Hey, legit. I will tell you, Batman was unnecessarily dickish in that story.
Yeah, it was just like, this is not.
And I've read lots of other Marv Wolfman Batman, and he never writes him that way. I've never read that before, but you're not wrong. It's always good to see Tom Grummett getting work, especially Robin, one of his signature artistic runs from the 90s. Although this wasn't his Robin, the best Robin, Tim Drake. This was Dick Grayson in his short shorts, and pixie boots. But always good to see Mr. Grummett, especially just he doesn't get the regular work that he should, and that sucks. Yeah. So, Mike, what are your thoughts on it?
Well. Anyway, your opinions are wrong, by the way. The best Robin is going to be Dick Grayson. The best story in here was A Little Nudge, which was the first story to kick off this fabulous 99-page Robin celebration. And real quick, if we can get a live update, I don't know who, but Jason Todd currently is by 1 point. It's 33% for Dick Grayson, 33% for Tim Drake, 34% for Jason Todd.
To be the best Robin?
There's a lot of wrong people out there in the Twitterverse. So hopefully my review on this book will, get you guys right. Word. No, it was only a matter of time before we got this book. On everyone's favorite sidekick. I mean, regardless of who is the best Robin. I mean, we all kind of grew up with this ward, of Batman, and I will kind of piggyback that Marv Wolfman, on a little nudge, did write Batman. And once again, kids, please earmuff it for this one. He made Batman a huge just prick. And this one, especially, when Dick, left, and obviously we know the story after that. But it was great, though. I mean, you have such a great creative team, and as Matt said, it's impossible. We're going to run out of time to sit here and go through the whole creative team of this book, but this is something that you really need to read, because really there's not a truly a bad story in this book. Yeah. I mean, you really read this and it's a good sit down book, and it really is something that I would put into almost, dare I say, a coffee table style of book, just because every story. And, obviously, Dick Grayson being the best Robin, and then you got other stories about whoever, I don't know who else played Robin, but, you got those other stories that you could just read on, and this whole book felt comfortable. From the creative teams, from the Stephanie storylines, the Jason Todd storylines and stuff like that, it just felt comfortable. And it just felt like DC really hit it out of the park with this one again. They did it with Wonder Woman, which I thought was a super book. And they did it with Robin. And what better way to celebrate Dick Grayson, the best Robin, than with this book? Obviously, definitely go pick it up. Highly recommended. And I will add, before I pass it off to Matt, who will obviously piggyback on that Dick Grayson is the best Robin.
He's the best Nightwing.
But I really do enjoy that they really truly depicted Robin in every stage, be it the beginning of stages, the 52 stage. They really hit on all cylinders on that, which I think just re-emphasizes my opinion that this is a great coffee table style of comic where you can just pick it up, pick a story, and read it and go, you know what? It's pretty rad. It's really good. So this book is definitely worth picking up. Don't shove it in a box. Keep it out, and definitely keep reading it for sure. Dick Grayson's the best Robin.
Not according to Twitter.
Oh, God.
So, my thoughts on this. I thought this was a fantastically well put together collection of stories. It's interesting to me that not only did it go chronologically throughout the very different Robins over the years, but also different phases in those Robins' careers. And, you can pinpoint where certain stories lie in continuity. The second, well, let me make sure I'm not saying this wrong. Yes, the second Tim Drake story, who's the best Robin, where he's trying to figure out what to do next with his life, is a prologue to James Tynion's and Eddie Barrow's fantastic Detective Comics run, which is really, let's be honest, a return of Bat Family in all but name. And then moving up through Damian and the current goings on in the Teen Titans book, which, by the way, is outstanding. If you're not reading it, please pick that book up. And then the later 90s with Nightwing and Donna Troy, known as Troya, and Devin Grayson's time on that title was circa 99, 98, 99, somewhere in there. I think it was 99. But, aside from that, I don't think there's a bad story in the bunch. And the fact that it reads chronologically lends it to an overall sense of purpose, more so even than Action Comics 1000, Detective Comics 1000, or Wonder Woman 750, all of which I really liked. all of which spoke to various themes about their respective characters. But this comic, it was almost through its different different stories and different creative teams telling the story of Robin, not just Dick Grayson, not just Jason Todd, but Robin, what Robin means to not just to Batman, but in general. And for that, I gotta say, this really gets marks above those other books. The forthcoming 80th anniversary specials have some serious living up to do to match this in terms of quality. I love that we got Chuck Dixon back on a Nightwing story. He has had a fairly fraught relationship with DC for about 14, 15 years now. So that's always good to see him working on a character that was so great. Like I said, Tom Grummett getting work again is fantastic. And, Devin Grayson, she just really fell off the radar after like 2003 or something. And she just sporadically pops up and reminds us that she's a really good writer every now and again. So, I have to agree with both my co-hosts that this is absolutely a book worth picking up despite the price tag, which might scare some people away. My favorite story? I gotta say, because he's the best Robin. No, I'm just kidding. The Super Son story might have actually been my favorite.
Yeah. Friendship.
Yeah, Friendship.
No.
But it also just harkens back to how great that Super Sons book by Tomasi was. And what we've been robbed of by certain other events involving John Kent in the last year or so. Not that I have opinions about that, but but yeah, I think that was probably my favorite. I think my least favorite was actually kind of a tie between the Stephanie Brown story, just because I don't feel like it was probably the least essential of the stories, even though I liked it. She had the one arc as Robin, and I get it. She's I'm a big spoiler fan. That arc is fun to see her try and fail at being Robin, but I just don't know that it needed to be touched on. And if you're going to touch on that, why didn't you touch on Carrie Kelly from the Dark Knight universe, right? All we got of Carrie Kelly was a really, really sloppy looking pinup by Frank Miller. But, this, that, the other, all things being equal. The Titans story was a little off to me. Not bad, but just a little off because it was really more of a Damien Dark story than it was a Nightwing story. But I still enjoyed it.
Right.
So, I mean, I can't really knock it. But overall, yeah, totally buy this. Totally buy this. So, Scoop, have I convinced you that Tim Drake is the best Robin yet?
Not even close, sir. Not even close.
Okay. I'm going to tell you why, and I swear I won't take up all the oxygen of the show and going overly detailed in this, but here's why Tim Drake is the best Robin. He sought the role out. As an 11-year-old kid, he was smart enough to figure out that Bruce Wayne is Batman and that Dick Grayson is Robin / Nightwing. He sought the role out himself, not because he wanted glory or even to go beat up bad guys, but because he was driven by the death of his parents. That those things would happen later. But because he realized the importance as an 11-year-old kid to Batman having a Robin and the balancing effect that has.
Damien is the best because
an 11-year-old kid decided. So my thing is, so you're saying your whole argument is built on an 11-year-old kid wanted to hang out with a billionaire because the job was
a cynical take on my argument, sir. Don't you have a bear to wrestle?
I'm sorry, but the mask currently, in taping right now. I can't wrestle him. COVID-19.
Dick Grayson, obviously the first Robin. It doesn't happen without him. Yeah. But I think Dick Grayson, because he outgrew the role, his legacy is that he outgrew the role and became Nightwing. He's the best Nightwing. Yeah. Not necessarily the best Robin.
For sure.
So, I mean, that's just my opinion. I love all these characters.
Sure.
Even Jason Todd. Even though he never should have been brought back from the dead, but that's another rant. Yeah, that's my 2 cents. If for some reason Twitter thinks that Jason Todd is the best Robin, she was not. That power to whomever.
Yeah.
So, anyway, Robin rocks.
But we do thank everyone for taking part in the poll and watching the show and stuff like that. And even though you're wrong about Jason Todd being the best Robin, it's fine. We still love you. Please keep watching and supporting the show.
Totes. My goats. So, okay, with that in mind, and since there's not going to be any bear wrestling this week, I think it's time to move on to our final segment. What have you been reading and what are you looking forward to? Mike, what do you got? Everybody's on quarantine, so you should have plenty of reading time. In theory.
What I'm reading, a two-parter here. What's that? You're breaking up.
Okay.
Yeah, you got it?
Go ahead. I can hear you. Yeah.
Okay. All right, so the first one we're going to talk about is Mercy. I can get it right here, from Image, taking part in a small town of Woodsburg. Who is Lady Helene? The small town is seeing a lot of brutal murders. This is really cool. It's kind of like takes place in the old time. I would horror, not like slasher. It's definitely like Cross or Deceased or stuff like that, but definitely something for that. If you like stuff like Dark Shadows and Penny Dreadful, I would say that this would be your book. Mirka Andolfo does a great job on art and the storytelling and stuff like that. Really, really well. And also, if I can share a pic of something. Also, I don't think it's going to come through. So anyway, this book is called Tremor Dose by Michael Conrad and Noah Bailey. It's a Comixology original. So if you have Prime, you could read it for free on there. Or if you don't, it's only $6.99. It's not going to break the bank. It's a horror, but on the lines of psychological horror, and how we kind of analyze our dreams and what we kind of go through with dreamings. What's reality? Are we going to awake? Type of stuff. Basically, if Stephen King and Stanley Kubrick got together to make this would be it. Definitely something I hugely endorse. It really just had me, every page turn was really, just had a deep thought. I mean, the art is very simple, but it's very eerie. It's very dark. Noah Bailey, and then looking at Noah Bailey stuff from Tremor Dose, the guy's amazing. Michael Conrad does an extremely immense, beautiful, horrifically job of getting the protagonist, whose name is Jin, across in the story. Highly recommended. So please check out Tremor Dose and Fancy. Those two books I have read probably constantly throughout this whole self-quarantine teleworking thing. Though those two books have definitely been by my side. What I am looking forward to is Transformers versus Terminator by David Marinette, John Barber, and Tom Waltz. That should be pretty cool. A huge Transformer Terminator fan. Sky did create the coronavirus, so this should be a really great book to kind of check out. I'm just kidding. They really didn't create the coronavirus. But yeah, no, Transformers versus Terminator. Yeah, that's like I said, Tremor Mercy, Transformers versus Terminator. Check those out. And that's what's going on in Scoop's life.
Yeah, I love hearing about some outside of the box stuff too, that folks might not.
Yeah, Tremor Dose.
I got to tell you,
outside of the box.
I hadn't heard of Tremor Dose at all. It sounds fantastic.
Yeah, it really is. I got to talk with Michael Conrad at GalaxyCon at Richmond, and turned me on to the book, and downloaded it during my time when I was up in Richmond, which is, maybe an hour and a half away from where I am right now, and have been hooked ever since.
Awesome.
On Tremor Dose. So definitely very worthy checking out.
Sweet. Well, Nick, how about you? What have you been reading, and what are you looking forward to?
Yeah, it's hard not to be impacted by the whole self-quarantine thing, right? So I've really just been diving into Judge Dredd, getting some fascist rule in here, and kind of like finally getting into the IDW side of Judge Dredd, because I did my homework for the longest with 2000 AD stuff, and kind of going back through a lot of the progs and the Dark Judges and a lot of the classic iconic stories. So I'm finally digging into the IDW stuff, and I'm starting with Mega City Zero, and really, really cool take on Judge Dredd and putting the character in kind of a sticks and stones age. So they get sent essentially back in time, and they've got these characters coming out of the grass, and it tells a story that's less futuristic, less sci-fi, and kind of gets a little bit more brutal with Judge Dredd, and kind of takes him out of
Wow.
Yeah, right. Like it's cool because it takes him out of this mega city and this like typical environment that you always see Judge Dredd in, and now all of a sudden it's almost like this open world, and there's greenery everywhere, which is so weird for a Judge Dredd book. And I think it's kind of a cool direction. And then I know IDW follows up on it with an even farther in the future story that is much more Western, that has the mega cities coming out with like mega railroads that is trying to connect through the cursed earth. And so the judges are trying to get through that and like expand into this with their railroad. So I'm starting in the kind of with the introduction in Mega City Zero, and I'm going to work my way to that. And I guess for what I'm looking forward to, I got to say IDW is coming out with another Judge Dredd series. So what better time? False Witness is coming out next Wednesday. It's really excited for it. I think it's something that it's not part of this like futuristic tale or like more of a Western or anything. It's much more classic, iconic Dredd. It's from Brandon Easton and Kai Zama. I think it's going to be a bit more of the conspiracy detective with hard cop angle that Judge Dredd's known for. So I'm excited for what IDW's doing with the character. Really
awesome. I wasn't even aware they were doing anything with the character. I'll have to look into that. So as for me, God, I've been reading a ton of stuff. I read the first trade of Dead Eyes from Image by Jerry Duggan and John McCrae. Ooh. Super fun. Enough I added the book to my pull sheet. Let's see, what else? I checked out Alienated #1 from Boom by Cy Spurrier, and I forget the artist, forgive me, but that was a lot of fun. Kind of had an 80s Spielberg feel to it, so that was pretty cool. I've been into a lot of Walking Dead lately. Not only because of what's going on in the outside world, but just this season of the show has been on fire.
So good.
And so I went back to the issue 127, which is the first one post All Out War, and that starts the stuff with the Whispers and really leads us towards the end of the series. And I've blown through like almost 30 issues in 3 days. I just can't stop reading it. It's so good. Robert Kirkman and Charlie Adler just created something so special with that comic. What I'm looking forward to, I am looking forward to Flash number 752 comes out this coming week. I know we've been so hard on the Flash on this show in the past, and Josh Williamson in particular, but I'm telling you guys, probably the last 6-8 months worth of issues, basically since about issue 75 before they renumbered it, this book has been legit. It has moved up to just the tip top of the DC part of my weekly stack whenever it ships, and the current story is excellent. Top-notch writing, awesome art by Christian Deuce. It's just worth checking out. So that's it for me, and that's it for us. This has been episode 71 of the Comic Watchers Show. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Matt. This is Mike. This is Nick. We are the Comic Watchers, part of comic-watch.com. Thank you so much. We will see you next week. Be kind to each other, folks.